Hello and welcome everyone. I'm your host Ajay Aditya C, and this webinar is powered by Zoho Books, our online VAT compliant accounting software. Today's webinar is going to be a step-by-step walkthrough of the product, and today I'll be telling you how to set up a Zoho Books organization, how to add details of customers and items, how to generate a VAT compliant invoice within Zoho Books, how to record your purchases including self-billed invoices, how you can manage your imports, and finally we'll see how to generate VAT returns and download the FTA audit file within Zoho Books. So these are the things that we are going to see today. And while we are at it, if you're listening to the live version, use the chat interface to type in your questions, and I have a team of panelists with me who will be eager to answer your questions. And if you are listening to the recorded version of this webinar at a later point in time, then I would suggest you to collect all your doubts and then drop an email to support@zohobooks.com. And our folks will get in touch with you and answer your questions. So we are going to see the essentials of Zoho Books today, right from setup to configuring different things to transacting within Zoho Books. Okay, to start with, you have to visit our Zoho Books website to try this product. So to sign up for Zoho Books, all you have to do is visit www.zoho.com/ae/books. So once you're within this URL, you can just click on the Start My 14-Day Free Trial button, and it would take you to a sign-up page wherein you just have to enter the details of your company, your email address, your contact number, and a password of your choice. And the country is going to be United Arab Emirates, and then you just have to agree to the terms and then click on the Create Account button. Doing so would do two things. First up, you will be taken to a organization setup page, and the second thing is that you are going to receive a confirmation email. So just go to your email address, open your inbox, and then just confirm the account. So once you do that, this is going to be a fully established account, and we are going to set up an organization. So this is how your organization page is going to look like. So I have inputted the name of my organization right here. You have to give a portal name. So why do you need a portal name? Basically in Zoho Books, we have something called as a client portal, wherein your customers can access this space to view all the estimates and invoices and customer statements that you have sent to them. And they can also interact with you by adding comments to these documents, and they can also rate your product or service within this page. They can also rate your service within the client portal. So these things are there. So after entering a unique portal name, it has to be unique for your organization. Nobody must have it. And the business location is going to be the UAE. You have to just input your company address, and then the currency is going to be dirhams. Time zone will be Gulf Standard Time, and fiscal year is going to be from January to December. So once you do that, you just have to save and continue. And this is going to take you to the taxes page. So first up, it is going to ask you whether you're registered for VAT or not. So if you're registered for VAT, by clicking on the Yes button, you're going to enable VAT compliant modules within Zoho Books. If you're registered for VAT, then all you have to do is click on the Yes option, then enter your tax registration number or TRN right here. And if you are an importer or an exporter, or if you also transact within the GCC countries, then in that case, you have to enable international trade for your organization. Upon doing this, it will take you to the features module. So here you will find different modules within Zoho Books. So you can enable estimates or quotes for your organization, Retainer invoices are those invoices that you send to your customers asking for advance payments. Timesheets will help you track projects and bill your customers. Price lists are going to help you give out customized prices for each and every customer. Then sales orders will allow you to draft orders, and it acts as a pro forma invoice for certain people. Then purchase orders can be created within Zoho Books, and this can be emailed to all your suppliers. And if you are an organization that sells products, and if you would like to track inventory levels for all your products, then you can enable inventory. And when you do, you have to provide an inventory start date. Hit the next button, and it's going to take you to the online payment section. So we are currently integrated to all of these payment gateways that you see right here. If you do have an account with any one of these payment gateways, then you can set up the integration right from this page. However, if you are not having the credentials on hand with you during the time of setup, you can always set up integrations at a later point within the integrations page of Zoho Books. Upon doing this, you just have to hit the Get Started button and you'll be inside Zoho Books. So now we have created an organization within Zoho Books, and as you can see here, this organization will be active for 14 days, after which the trial period is going to expire. You can always go for a subscription right here. So on the left hand side, we have what you call as a sidebar, which has different modules: the dashboard, contacts, items. So within items, you would see items, price lists, and adjustments. Then you have banking. Then under the sales modules, you have all the different transactional modules. So you have estimates, sales orders, invoices, payment receipts, recurring invoices, credit notes, and so on. And under purchases section, you have expenses, recurring expenses, purchase orders, bills, the payments that you make to your vendors, recurring bills, and vendor credits. And you also have a timesheet module that is going to allow you to track different projects and other things. And you have an accountant module, which is dedicated to accountants. So you can see various sub-modules here. So you have manual journals, you have currency adjustments, you have what you call as a chart of accounts, and you can also log transactions right here. Apart from that, we have a host of reports right here. We'll be looking at that at a later point in time. On top, you have this top header band, wherein you have the quick create button. So using this, you can create any record within Zoho Books. So you can add a customer or create an invoice or send out a vendor payment. All of these things can be done from right here. Next to that, you have recent activities. This is more like a history. Then you have the search bar. You can choose a particular module and search for a record. And we also have what you call as an advanced search, wherein you can just input the data within one of these fields and search based on that particular information. Then on the right top corner, you have the organization button, which holds the name of your organization. If you have other companies, you can always click on it and switch between them. So for a single account, you can have multiple companies within Zoho Books. However, the subscription for each company is different. Then you have the notifications button, which is going to keep you updated on all the things that are happening within Zoho Books. Then the documents feature will allow you to store all your additional data that you have from emails or through auto scan or uploads. And then you have the settings button, which is going to take you to the configuration modules within Zoho Books. Then you have help and support right here, and you have an account information pane right here. So this is the summary of the window. So now we are going to see how you can configure and set up Zoho Books. So to do that, all we have to do is click on the settings icon and then click on any one of these configuration modules. So I have just clicked on the organization profile where you can upload your logo, enter the details of your organization, and then if you need additional fields or anything, you can just add them right here and store that information. You can also choose whether you do accrual based accounting or cash based accounting. And you can choose a primary contact who is going to be the face of your organization, meaning all the emails, all the invoices are going to be sent from this person. Once you have added all the information that you require, next we'll be moving on to opening balances. So this page will allow you to record the opening balance across different accounts as you set up Zoho Books. So when you're setting up Zoho Books to manage your accounting for the year 2018, I would request you to use the closing balance data for 2017 and have that populated within these sections. If you're wondering how to do that, in that case, if suppose you're using an accounting software, then there will always be a specific report called trial balance report, which can be referred by you, and that data can be used to populate your opening balance. Next up, we have users and roles. So like any company, you would have different people managing different things within your accounting software. So for that, we have some roles within Zoho Books. Here we have some standard roles. So you can either be an admin or a staff member with limited access to certain modules, or you can also create your own new custom role. So you can name whatever you want to name. For instance, let's say you're adding your accountant within Zoho Books. So if I'm adding my accountant, then my accountant should have access to the accountant module. So I should give him or her full access to the accountant module. I should not give them access to my settings. However, I can give them access to accountant and tax reports within reports. I don't need to give them all my documents. As for these things, you can either make it full access or you can remove certain accesses. So I have a new role right here. So this way you can create custom roles within Zoho Books and you can assign it to users. So to invite a team member into Zoho Books, just open the users panel and then click on the invite user button, open up this particular window wherein you just have to type in their email address, their name, and you just have to specify a role for them. So once you do, an invite email will be sent to them, which will have a specific button called join account. So once they click on that, they would be added to your organization. So with that, we are moving to the next section called preferences. In this section, you would be able to customize Zoho Books and tailor it according to your needs. So first up, there are certain sub-modules within the preferences module. So we have general preferences, branding preferences, preferences for contacts, items, estimates, sales orders, invoices, and other sales modules. Likewise, for purchases, we have certain preferences and we have project preferences. So when I say preferences, this particular module will enable or disable certain functions of Zoho Books for your convenience. So for instance, you can always enable, say, retainer invoices if you need them from this particular page. And you can also have approval for purchase transactions. So you can, if you need approval mechanisms, you can always do that from here. So there are different things that you can do from right here. So for instance, if let's go to estimates. So they are basically quotes, right? So when you send out an estimate or a quote to a particular customer, the customer will receive it in two places. One is that they will receive an email of the estimate, wherein they'll have an option to either accept or reject the estimate. And then they, inside their client portal, this particular estimate is also going to be visible to them. So when they accept an estimate, you can automate that process of converting an accepted estimate into an invoice from within the preferences section. So this is something that we have right here. And if suppose you need custom fields for any particular module, say for instance, I have my customers and I would like to add a specific custom field wherein I would be having one more data. So for instance, if suppose I need to keep track of something like say customer ID. So if I'm giving customer IDs to each of my customers, then in that case, I can always have a create a custom field for customer ID, set the data type. And speaking of data types, we have plenty. We have about 14 different data types. So depending on the type of data that you wish to store within a field, you can choose that. And once you do, you can also set a default value for them. And then you can specify whether it's a mandatory column or if it's an optional column. And then you can also display this within the client portal if needed, because this is the contacts module. So once this is there, I'm just going to save it. And upon doing this, I have created a custom field. So similarly, you can create custom fields across different modules within Zoho Books. Then we are going to look at currencies. So this particular module will allow you to transact with multiple currencies. So if you are an importer or an exporter, you are going to be transacting with customers and vendors who are located in different countries who sell or buy goods using different currencies. So we have already added certain currencies right here, and you can see your base currency is the UAE dirham. And you can enable automatic exchange rate feeds right here. So once you do that, the exchange rates would be enabled and fetched in real time. And whenever you create an invoice or whenever you record a purchase invoice within Zoho Books, if the vendor or the customer is from a different country, then the invoice is going to be converted to their base currency, to the customers or the vendor's base currency. So you can do that. And if you transact with customers from a totally different country, you can always add their currency right here by clicking on the new currency option, and then you can just select the country code, and then you can just add the currency right here. Next up, we are going to look at taxes. So we had already enabled VAT for this organization while we did the setup process. So as soon as we did that, you would be pleased to find two tax rates. So I told you that when you enable VAT, accordingly, the VAT modules within Zoho Books are going to be enabled, and the 0 rate and the standard rate for UAE is going to be available here. Now, some of you might have a question. Ajay, in UAE, we also have a specific category called exempt items, and you have not mentioned it right here. Well, you're right. The exempt part has not been mentioned here. However, you don't have to worry. While creating an item, you would be able to choose whether it is a standard rated item, a 0 rated item, or if it's a non-taxable or an exempt item. So it's taken care over there, so you don't have to worry. And this particular module is only dedicated to taxes that you have. So that is exactly why we have just mentioned the two rates right here. And there are certain other modules right here. So you can set up reminders, you can create templates. So let me just go over the templates. So within the templates section, you can add different templates for your invoices, purchase orders, and so on. So as you can see here, I have a couple of templates here. I have a template in English. I also have an Arabic template for my invoices right here. So to create a new template, all you have to do is click on the plus new button, and then you would see various styles, and you just have to click on one of those styles, click use this, and then select language, and it's going to be something like this. So you can customize the way it looks and feels, enable or disable certain columns, and that's how you can have personalized invoices sent to different customers. Similarly, for emails, we have email templates within Zoho Books. So as you can see here, For each and every notification, you can personalize it and add your own kind of messages within email templates. And you can set up reminders within Zoho Books to keep you informed of different things. And you can also automate certain processes using workflow automation. Now, this is going to be an advanced module, but for today's webinar, which is more like a basics webinar, we won't be seeing this in detail. And then you can also integrate Zoho Books with payment gateways, with other Zoho apps. So as you can see here, at Zoho, we use our own products. And so a company needs more than accounting to run itself. So we have more than 35 different apps. And so you can link Zoho Books with some of the major apps that we provide from right here. And if you wish to back up your data, you can always back up all the data that you have within Zoho Books at any given point in time using this particular feature. And if you're happy with Zoho Books, you can subscribe to Zoho Books by clicking on the subscribe button, and it's going to take you to our store right here. By clicking on the subscription button, and it's going to take you to the Zoho store, and you can choose a suitable plan and upgrade your Zoho Books organization. So now that we have seen different configuration modules within Zoho Books, let's quickly take a look at how you can add customer and vendor details within Zoho Books. So to do that, I have just accessed the transactional modules by coming out of the settings. And right now, I'm just going to click on the contacts. So I have a pre-populated organization right here. So I have a few contacts. So within the contacts module, you can access different kinds of contacts. In Zoho Books, you have customers and vendors, and then there are some subcategories within Zoho Books. So right here, I'm just looking at contacts, and then when I hit the all contacts filter, all the customers and vendors that I deal with have been populated here. So you can even increase the amount of data per page right here. So that is going to give you even more overview. So to add a customer or vendor into Zoho Books, you can do one of the two methods. So you can either manually add customers or vendors one by one, or you can import them within Zoho Books. So to manually add customers or vendors within Zoho Books, just click on the plus button on the left-hand sidebar adjacent to contacts. So once you do that, it's going to take you to a new contact page wherein you just have to enter the contact information. For instance, let's say you're dealing with Zilker Industries and you have a Mr. Rafiq who is your primary contact within Zilker Industries. So if that's the case, then you can just add Mr. Rafiq over here, and the company's name is going to be Zilker Industries. Now you can also add the email address, phone number, and other information for Zilker Industries right here. Now coming to VAT treatment and other details. So if this is going to be a VAT registered customer, then in that case you can just choose VAT registered option right here, and then you just have to specify the VAT registration number or the TRN number for this particular customer. So once that is done, the place of supply is going to be the emirate where they are located, since this person is registered under UAE VAT. Let's say it's Sharjah, and the currency is going to be dirhams because both of you are located in UAE. Now if you have a price list, then in that case you can always use that price list by default, and this particular customer will get a specified set amount of discount across all your products right here. And then you can add the address details right here. If there are multiple points of contacts within a single organization, then you can also add them under contact persons. Then if you have created any custom fields within Zoho Books, then those fields can be accessed here and you can store additional information. And then we have something called as a reporting tag. So within Zoho Books, under settings, you would have seen this name called reporting tag. So basically what a reporting tag does is that it allows you to categorize the data that you have based on certain tags, and then using these tags you can segregate the data within your report. And then if you have any internal notes, you can always add them, and then once you hit the save button, this particular contact or customer will be created. And you can always enable portal access right here, and an email will be sent to them to accept your invitation. You also have other options, so you can edit customer information at any given point in time using the edit button on the top. You can attach files related to this particular client. You can create transactions from here using this particular field, and then you can also have different details right here. Suppose there is a particular customer who is also a vendor, then in that case you can create two different entries and link them both. You can merge different contacts and so on. So there are a host of options within your contacts module. So as you can see here, I'm cloning a particular contact. So I'm cloning Mr. Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar, who is not only a customer but he's also a vendor. So I'm just cloning him. So as you can see here, this is going to be a customer, and I can just link this to a vendor. Now before we go to items, we are also going to see how you can import your records within Zoho Books. So to import data in bulk, all you have to do is just click on this menu button from the right top corner and then select import customers. So once you do, you can just access the import page, and you can find a sample file right here. So if you can see my cursor, the sample file can be downloaded by clicking on this link. And then there are 3 steps in a typical import process. So first you have to choose and upload the file in a .csv or a .tsv format. And then once you hit the next button, it's going to take you to a mapping fields page wherein you have to map the different fields within that CSV file to the fields present within Zoho Books. And then finally you have to preview and check if everything has been imported all right. So these are going to be the 3 stages of import, and this functionality is not only limited to the contacts module, but it also extends to all the other major modules like items, invoices, purchase orders, sales orders, and so on. So now that we have seen different ways of adding data into Zoho Books, let's take a quick look at items. Using this particular module, you can add the goods and services that you sell into Zoho Books. As always with the other modules, you can also import items and services in bulk. To add an item into Zoho Books, just click on the plus button, and then you can choose whether it's a product or a service, enter the details of the item. If it's going to be an inventory tracked item, then just enable inventory tracking. And if it's an excise product, you can also mention it right here. Accordingly, the tax treatment is going to be taken care of. You can also upload an image if you want the image to be reflected on your invoices. So this is items. And as you can see here, I have a couple of items inside Zoho Books. So when I open a typical item, you would have an overview, you would have a purchases section and a history. The purchases section will house all the purchases made for a particular item, and then you have history. With that, we are going to look at how to create a VAT compliant invoice within Zoho Books. So before we explore the sales modules, I would like to give you a specific flow. So today, what we are going to do is we are going to create an estimate, send out a quote to a particular customer, and then when the customer accepts that particular estimate, we are going to convert it into an invoice. And then if the customer, say, returns one of the items that he or she has bought, then we are going to create a credit note for it. And then we are going to record the payment made by the customer for the rest of the items, all within Zoho Books. So I'm just clicking on the plus new button, and then I'm inside a new estimates page. So I'm just selecting the customer to whom I'm going to send out this particular estimate. So as soon as I select the customer, the details of the customer has been updated here, and the place of supply has been captured, and then the date for the estimate. So let's say I'm going to send out the estimate on 3rd of January 2018, and I'm also going to set up an expiry date. So I'm going to keep the expiry as 11th of January 2018, and the salesperson is going to be this person. I'm going to select the salesperson, and then if this is involved in a project, you can also add a project. Right now there are no projects ongoing within Zoho Books, and so the item rates are going to be tax inclusive, and we just have to select a particular item. So I have selected an item right here, and I'm going to specify a quantity. So let's send out an estimate for 30 tables to this particular customer, and I'm going to give him a 5% discount. So as you can see here, both offers are located within the UAE, so a standard rate of 5% is automatically attached to this particular transaction. So I'm going to send this to Mr. Jalaluddin. So once I hit the save and send button, it has been sent to Mr. Jalal. So let us assume that Mr. Jalaluddin has accepted this particular estimate. Either they can accept it from the email or through the client portal, or they can just give you a call and you can mark this as accepted. So once that is done, the estimate goes to an accepted format. So now that this particular estimate has been accepted, it can be converted into an invoice with a click of a single button. So as you can see here, all the details from the estimate have been reflected right here. The customer details are right here. The invoice date is going to be 4th Jan, since I sent out the estimate on 3rd January. The same salesperson is right here. The item, the quantity, including the discount and the tax rate, have been reflected here. And then as you can see, including my terms and conditions and notes, all of these things have been carried forward right here. So I'm going to save this particular invoice and email this to Mr. Jalal. Now let's say that Jalal only wants 29 tables and he has no use for the 30th table. So he's returning back one table to you. So how will you record that? So to record returns as well as to record any discounts after you raise an invoice to the client, all you have to do is create a credit note for it. You can either create a credit note from the left sidebar, or you can just click on the more button and then create a credit note for this particular transaction. Similarly, you can also create a debit note from the right top corner right here for a particular invoice. So I'm just going to create a credit note. As you can see here, I have a credit note, and then this credit note is for the one table that he has returned back to us. And the date is going to be, say, 6th of January. So as you can see here, the credit note has been created for this particular invoice. So now you can access the credit note information from right here. The credits applied is right here. So as soon as he returned the item back to you, that credit has been applied to this particular invoice, since Jalal is yet to pay the amount for all the 30 tables. So now that he has returned one table, Jalal has to only pay for 29 tables. So this is how a credit note looks like. So this is a standard credit note. This is in English, or if you wish to change it to Arabic, you can always change the template and accordingly. So right now I have an Arabic template right here. So let's go back to that particular invoice and let's open that invoice. By the way, whenever you access any transaction module, you can always choose different filters and accordingly access only those invoices. So I just go to partially paid invoices since I have applied credits. So I'm just accessing this particular invoice, and here to record payment, I just have to hit the record payment option, and it's going to take me to a payment page. If you have integrated Zoho Books with a payment gateway, then as soon as you send out an invoice, a payment link will also be sent to a customer, and the customer can pay you online and the payment status will be updated automatically. If suppose you have not integrated with any of the payment gateways, then in that case you have to manually record payments, and that's what we are going to do right now. So the amount received is going to be the balance, which has been automatically reflected here, and the payment date is going to be, say, 9th of January, and he has paid it in cash, or maybe let's put it as a bank transfer, and it's been deposited to, say, savings, so in bank. And then there should be always a reference ID with bank transactions. So once that is done, let's record the payment. So as soon as you record the payment, the status of this particular invoice has been changed to paid. So with that, we complete a sales cycle within Zoho Books. And you can obviously see the payment receipt right here on top, payment hash 15. So this is a simple payment receipt within Zoho Books. So now that we have seen a sales operation, let's look at purchases. So within purchases, what we are going to do is we are going to create a purchase order, issue this purchase order to a vendor, and when the vendor invoices the order, we are going to record the invoice within Zoho Books, and we are also going to see how you can go about recording a self-billed invoice. So first up, I'm drafting a purchase order, and this is going to be for GE Furniture. So as soon as you select the vendor, the place of supply is reflected right here, and then you have the purchase order number, which is automatically generated. And then for date, let's say I am buying some more tables on 12th of January 2018, and let the delivery date be 13th. And for shipment preferences, maybe I'll write DHL, and item rates are going to be tax inclusive. So I'm going to select tables, and I'm going to order about 100 tables. The tax is going to be standard rate since the vendor is also located within the UAE. And then let's say the vendor gives us some discount. So now we have drafted a purchase order, and you can email purchase order to the vendor by hitting on the email button, which is going to take you to an email page, and you can just email the purchase order to the vendor. So once you have emailed the purchase order to a vendor, it's going to be converted to an open state. And now let's say the vendor has seen the purchase order and he has prepared the items, and then along with the items he has sent you a bill. So you can now create bills in two ways. Either you can convert the purchase order into a bill wherein all the details from the purchase order is going to be automatically reflected inside the bill. You just have to specify the bill details right here. So the bill number is going to be the invoice number sent by the vendor, and then you can attach the invoice attachment that he or she has sent by mail using the attach file option, and then you can save this bill as open. So once you do that, the bill or the invoice sent by the vendor for a purchase made by you will be automatically reflected within Zoho Books. Self-billed invoice. The rule states that certain companies can get into an agreement with their vendors and suppliers and create invoices on behalf of the vendor or the supplier. So if you're one of those companies who have the authority to create self-billed invoices, then in that case, you can do that within Zoho Books. And to do that, just head to the Bills section, and then on the right top corner, next to the New button, you have another option called Create Self-Billed Invoice. So click on that and just fill in the details of a particular purchase made by you, and you have a self-billed invoice within Zoho Books. So this is just the way to create a self-billed invoice. So now let's say you are an importer. Now let us see how we can record and manage imports within Zoho Books. So to record an import, we are just recording the invoice sent by the vendor. So let's say Mr. Inayat Khan from London is sending me an invoice. I just have the items. I'm ordering 50 pieces from this particular vendor, and the tax column here has been locked. This is because this particular vendor is a non-GCC vendor, as you can see here in the VAT treatment just below the vendor's name. So being a non-GCC vendor, this particular vendor is not registered under VAT. So obviously the invoice issued by Mr. Inayat Khan here, who is a non-GCC vendor, will not contain any information related to VAT. However, as an importer, you will be required to pay VAT on reverse charge to the customs office before you collect the items. So we are going to see how that can be recorded and managed within Zoho Books. So I'm saving this particular bill. So now that this has been created, so I have imported 50 pieces of a particular item. And so to record the import VAT that you have paid within the customs office, which is not mentioned in the invoice given by the vendor, all you have to do is go to that particular bill under the purchases section in Zoho Books, open the bill and click on the More button, and then select what you call as Create Bill of Entry. So when you click on that, you will be taken to a bill of entry creation page. One thing to note, that bills of entry can be created only for items. So you cannot create a bill of entry for services because there is no need to do so. But for items, you have to pay VAT on reverse charge to the customs office when you collect the items. So for that, you have what you call as a bill of entry. So the bill of entry number and the port code, then the date, so the invoice. So let's say it reached us on 20th January, and we are going to pay through petty cash. So these are the items. So if there are any additional charges from the customs office, let's say 300 dirhams, and then the tax you paid is going to be standard rate 5% on reverse charge. So this is going to be the total amount that you have paid right there. And you can also mention if these goods are imported for transfer to other GCC countries. In the VAT law, depending on where the consumption of a particular imported good is, the type of supply is determined based on that. And accordingly, this particular transaction is recorded under different tables within your VAT return. So if you have imported goods to sell within the UAE, then you don't have to click this option. However, if you have imported these goods to transfer them to your warehouse in another GCC country, or maybe to sell them in another GCC country, in that case you have to check this option. So I'm just saving this bill of entry. So upon doing that, you can access the bill of entry just below the bill. So by clicking on this is how a typical bill of entry looks like within Zoho Books. So now that we have seen how you can manage your bills and other things, let's take a brief look at the accountant module. So within the accountant module, we saw that you have the chart of accounts. If suppose you wish to create your own accounts, or if you wish to track certain aspects of your accounting under different accounts, you can always create a new account right from this section, and you can just select the account type, and then you can have the account name and the code as well as a description for it. And then you can also add a particular account to your watch list on dashboard so that you have a real-time idea of how things are going about this particular account, and you have to save it. So you can do various things within this. Your accountant can also add manual journals at any point in time using this particular option, make adjustments to your accounting. You can also do currency adjustments right here, or if you're going through an audit, you can lock all your transactions within Zoho Books. And then when we come to reports, we have a host of reports. So as you can see here, we have about 40 different reports. There are certain reports that are very important to you. So you can find the profit and loss statement right here. So when you look at that, you would be able to see how much profit you're making. And if you wish to see a drill down of certain reports, so you just have to click on one of those fields and it's going to give you a drill down report. So I just clicked on sales and it is showing me sales figures for this particular time period. So this is only for December. So if I'm going to view the report for a totally different period, then so I can just specify a time frame. So say from Jan 1 to Jan 31st, and I'm running a report. So as you can see here, I have plenty of details for a different time frame. So you can also do that this way. Similarly, there are different reports. So you can view your FIFO cost lot tracking for your inventory from right here. You can also see reports like sales by item, wherein you would be able to find the details of the sales that you have made. So there are different reports that you can run within Zoho Books. And with that, we are going to see how you can generate a tax return. So to do so, just access the tax returns under tax reports. And to generate a particular VAT return, you just have to click on the generate VAT return option. And then you would have a new VAT return. So right now I have already generated a VAT return for January to March quarter. And so as you can see here, we have captured VAT on sales and other outputs, and we have divided it based on different emirates as prescribed by the FTA. And this also includes the zero-rated supplies and exempt supplies that you make, including any changes, amendments, and adjustments that you may have done to a particular transaction. And then you have VAT on expenses and other inputs, including your purchases. So those are captured here. And then this particular section is going to tell you the net VAT due, the VAT that you have to pay to the government, and the amount of credit that you can claim from the government. So this is how it is going to be. You have seen a VAT return. Once the FTA opens the filing option, we'll also provide the ability to file VAT returns directly from within Zoho Books. So for now, if you have filed a VAT return, you can just manually mark this as filed. And then coming back to the final aspect of this particular webinar, you can generate FTA audit files at any given point of time within Zoho Books. And to do that, you just have to access the VAT return, and then within the VAT return, you have this option called Generate FTA Audit File. So once you click on that, the FTA audit file will be emailed to you after it's being generated based on the data that you give inside Zoho Books. And once it has been emailed to you, you would receive a notification within Zoho Books. So typically this goes to the primary admin of your Zoho Books organization. And so he or she will be receiving the email or the FTA file. So with that, we come to the end of this particular webinar. So if you have any questions or doubts, you can always email support@zohobooks.com and our folks will help you with it. Thank you so much for being here. Take care. Bye-bye.